Join me as we enter the world of positivity and dreams. My name is Ramil Cueto, and this is After Dusk. After Dusk really is a conversation. It's a meaningful encounter between me and you. I like to talk about dreams, how we build a dream, how we realize a dream, and everything that goes with it. That in life, it's a meaningful journey. It's a roller coaster of things. But the most important thing is how you are in the process. Life principle is about doing what is right the best that you can, even if it's hard. This is After Dusk. Welcome and good evening, friends, wherever you are. I want to thank you for tuning in tonight because we have a very important subject matter pertaining health. And we call this episode, What Makes Us Healthy? Tonight I'm going to be joined by a special friend to give a lot of insights and practical ways to be healthy in its totality. He has a master's degree in public administration, public health. He's operated a health store in the UK where he came from. And in the last 20 years, he's been living in the Philippines in Talumpok East. I come from Talumpok West, Batangas City. And so I'm grateful to welcome Kuya Robin Willison to After Dusk. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Great. First off, I want to thank you for suggesting the appropriate topic for this evening, which is what makes us healthy. Because this is quite important for me because people always think when we mention the word healthy pertaining to just the physical aspect of it. But in reality, there's more to it, like mental, psychological, and spiritual. Would you agree with me?
Well, health, as you say, health consists of a whole lot of different factors. Mm-hmm. Health is where basically you feel good and you feel you're achieving something with your life.
That's true.
So if you have a lot of stressful worries, that can affect your achieving what you want to achieve. So the way you're thinking, the positive ways that you think about what's your environment, the way you relate to your environment, then the food you're eating, the exercise you take, all the different factors, like for instance what water you're drinking, all of these affect first of all your blood. And your blood affects the functioning of your brain. So good health has to be founded on thinking good and positive thoughts and having a physical lifestyle which contributes to that.
Thanks, Kuya Robin. And that's exactly why we chose to work on this topic tonight. That is, by looking into a broader aspect of health, then we can have a more balanced, more integrated, more, I would say, complete way of looking at things. So I want to start off with the physical because this is the easiest part. To me, this is the tip of the iceberg. And what's down there in this iceberg are the emotional, psychological, mental, and spiritual part of it. But let's focus on the physical health. The physical health is pretty much, I would say, the easiest to tackle. Because if we're aware, for instance, of the food we eat and what's in it, then we'll be more cautious on eating it and making it part of our daily life. And then there's also an aspect of the environment we live. Do we get enough fresh sunshine, fresh air? Is our environment healthy? Are we near toxic places like garbage, dumping area, things like that? So the physical aspect is first where I want to ask you. So in your experience, you're a very healthy person and you live a very healthy life. What's so important? What are the things that people should be aware in maintaining good physical health and sustain it?
I think one of the key things is Our world today is full of toxins, man-made toxins. This has altered our environment. So these man-made toxins, we think they're all helping us. For instance, the ladies are always putting cream on their faces and using this shampoo every day. And our concepts of health are basically driven by the advertising that we're listening to and watching. And therefore, they may not be founded firmly on what the true facts really are.
Right, right.
So we have so many toxins, as I say, and recently with COVID, now we've got to wear face masks which collect the toxins coming out of our respiratory system, and then we breathe them back in again. We've got to keep using isopropyl alcohol for washing our hands.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing to do? And so on. So then we live in rooms with aircon instead of fresh air. Our world today is far more full of toxins than it was the way that our grandparents and our parents used to live. So that's one of the key things that impact our health. We're surrounded by toxins. Even, we wash our clothes, and then when we get them out of the washing machine and they're dried, we want them to smell good. What is that smell?
Chemicals, usually.
It's a chemical, often with various intoxicating elements to it. So I'm just going to throw that out as a general idea, and the reason why society has never been sicker than it is today, because there's so many man-made toxins in our environment.
Right. So I like that thought to be the first takeaway tonight. That is to live a healthy, to live healthy physically. We need to do away with toxins. Anything that might harm us externally, internally, from the food we eat, from the chemicals we use in our households, at work, anywhere in the environment, we need to be aware of what those toxins are. The other aspect of toxin or toxicity is what's inside, because if our body is not able to remove these toxins out of our system, that becomes a big problem eventually. And so, for instance, it's good to perspire. So this means to be physically healthy, we got to exercise or have an active life, right?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because my son and daughter-in-law and their children came to visit us a while ago. They're living in another country, and my daughter-in-law said, "Oh, do you have any deodorant with you?"
All right.
I said, "No, I don't have deodorant, because what the deodorant does is it's designed to stop the body from sweating and sweating out the chemicals you don't want inside your body. And also, you absorb some of those chemicals into your body." I said, "I just have more showers."
Yes.
We use the good water we have here in Batangas City. We use it more and use chemicals less in our household.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just a simple example.
Yes, it's simple, but usually left for granted because we're so used to this idea that we have to smell good by using artificial deodorants. So,
but I'd like to throw out another concept right now. Progressively, we're being taught what's called the germ theory.
right.
The germ theory is that we're surrounded by all kinds of diseases, and we have to protect ourselves against these diseases. And our front line of attack is to use man-made chemicals to protect ourselves. In fact, it's the other way around. If we take care of our bodies the way we should, then it will automatically resist all of those environmental things around us, so that we don't come down sick with them. So it's a different philosophy. The philosophy should be, according to the way I see it anyway, that we should be doing everything to promote our physical well-being and our mental well-being. So when we do that, then we will be healthy and we will be able to resist all of those other things in our environment.
So I totally agree. We've given you two thoughts about physical well-being. I want to, of course, we can talk about the foods and everything, and everybody can actually learn pretty much how to eat healthy. But I want to jump into the mental and psychological health, because today, with very chaotic kind of world, we have uncertainties, rumors of war, calamities, people losing jobs, losing homes, getting evicted, and all other sources of potential stress and anxiety. Mental and psychological health have become very, very important to look at. So how do we address these mental challenges, these psychological challenges?
Well, I think the Philippines has a strong tradition of families supporting themselves internally. A lot of, actually there's two aspects. Maybe I should first of all say the spiritual aspect is very important also. How do we deal with stress? Something happens and we feel really stressed up about it, we don't know how to handle it, goes round and round in our brains. The spiritual aspect is really important. Can you spend time withdrawing from the world and talking to God about your problems, knowing that He can hear? This is what we mean by faith. Knowing that God is listening and He wants to take care of us and direct so that our stressors don't become overwhelming. So one aspect is the spiritual aspect. Are we able to take this all to God and say, Lord, I'm feeling overwhelmed by this. Please help me to find my way through these problems. Now, the family is also important. Are there people around you who care for you, who help to form your environment socially, and who you care for, and you have mutual relationships which build you up internally, that you feel at least there's one place in which I'm fully accepted and I don't need to live stressfully. So number one is our relationship with God is really important. And secondly, our relationship with the family members around us. Are we living as peacefully as we can with each other?
I totally agree that having a very stable spiritual life, having consistent relationship and communication with God can strengthen us, so that when psychological, emotional, I would say, storms would come, we are resilient. We can easily bounce back. And if we don't communicate directly to God, it's always good to associate yourselves with people who are closer to God and who can provide you a more, I would say, balanced and more sensical kind of insights as to moving forward. Because otherwise, if you associate yourselves with the wrong people, they're going to give you wrong advices and you definitely go to the wrong direction. So having what makes us healthy, if I can summarize that into one or two words, is number one, making a decision to associate yourself with the right people, and of course strengthening your relationship with God.
Yes, the people around us affect us a great deal.
Definitely,
our friends.
Most definitely, because whatever they say, whatever the opinions they would give you, would somehow make you think twice. Is this making sense? So
we need to surround ourselves with people who have a similar concept to ourselves, and who are seeking to live, to make the most out of their lives.
Being positive, having a positive attitude towards life, relationship, work, business, whatever, is a big plus, because you think of good things instead of bad things. You think of hopeful things instead of hopeless things.
Mm-hmm.
So associating yourselves with the right people and getting rid of toxic relationship, friends, workplace, discussions, etc., is already a major step towards being healthy in its totality. So on the spiritual side, I want to explore that a little bit. How do you really become spiritually healthy and stable, given this very, very noisy world and different opinions about the right kind of spirituality? How do you mean by being spiritual?
Well, I think, first of all, it starts, how do you start off your day? So, do you start off your day rushing? You're trying to cope with all the pressures, you're running around the place, you're getting yourself exhausted, even thinking about all the things you need to do? Or are you starting your day in meditation? For Christians, we call it prayer.
Or reflection.
Prayer is where we're meditating with God about all the things around us, about the situations we're facing, and we need wisdom on how to cope with them, and so on. So and then acknowledging that God is the great God of the universe, and that we are only His children down on this earth, and we are wayward children. We're not good children. We've done so many mistakes. So it's how you start. Do you spend time meditating with God? For Christians, we call it prayer. In reflecting on what is going on, where we are, our relationship with God, our relationship to other people, and so on. And then when we start our day, we've already done that, what shall I call it, peacemaking meditation.
All right. And I agree, and I once heard a priest talk about this, and he says, we start the day with God by prayer, and then we stay with God during the day by being aware of our action, and whether it's praising Him or whether it's glorifying Him. And then we end the day again with gratitude. Gratitude that we were healthy, gratitude that we were safe, gratitude that we were able to accomplish the things we want to do, and gratitude that we had the energy, the resources that went us through. So this is quite important.
Yeah. So gratitude is a key aspect. In the Bible, it tells us in the New Testament, in all things give thanks. That means in the good and in the bad.
Yes.
That we should give thanks. We should have an attitude, God is guiding us, and we are seeking to walk with Him in the way that He sets before us, and we're thankful that we can trust in Him, that He wants the very best for us, and that He will work out His will and purposes in our lives if we're walking with Him. So gratitude is really important. Thank you for bringing that up.
Right, great. So if I were to make an analogy, the physical food we take, the drinks that we take in, this nourishes our cells physically. If properly processed by our body, it goes to the bloodstream, and voila, we're healthy. And that just reminded me that will be the second part of this discussion. We're going to talk about how foods and drinks get processed and how it makes us healthy. But the analogy I'm making is, so physical food, physical body, and then spiritual food, the spiritual health, psychological, mental health. And if we are healthy in its totality, it manifests. During the day, we are energetic. I feel myself going and going like a battery without getting tired when I'm healthy. Number two, it manifests on our behavior. Do we smile? Do we say hello? Or we put ourselves in a corner feeling sorry because the world is upon us in our shoulder? Or are we looking at things like those as it's just part of living? Life is hard, so am I going to be arrested by that difficulty, or am I just going to live life and be resilient? So, being healthy is manifested not just by how vigorous we are, but the gesture, the attitude, behavior we demonstrate towards our peers, family, visitors. Mm-hmm. We become hospitable instead of being hostile. And we become trusting instead of being, suspicious. Because the contents of our body, our mind is healthy. So I think that's one key thing we like to share with you, that look at health in its totality.
Yeah, because that's the subject of what we're talking about here tonight.
What makes us healthy?
What makes us healthy? And
or unhealthy, for that matter.
Some people tend to argue. We've had so many arguments regarding foods. Is it good to eat a lot of carbohydrates, or should we have an Atkins diet and eat mainly proteins? Is cholesterol good or bad for you, and so on? We have so many arguments when it comes to nutrition, and then people tend to concentrate on that as being the essence of good health. But good health is a whole lot of other things besides, and they all have to be in a balance in order for you to really have the strength and energy that you need to deal with your life.
Totally. Before we go on, I just want to acknowledge Miss Leona De Leon, Villarreal. Thank you for your thoughts. She said morning devotion, starting the day right, setting the day right by having that connection with God. Mm-hmm. And I also want to mention a friend of mine from Europe wanted me to just share his thoughts. He's from Amsterdam. He lives in Southern Europe, and he said, of course, focus on fresh vegetables bought from the local supplier from our villages. We start the day with, of course, a good espresso. For those coffee lovers like me, definitely will have coffee barako. There's a lot of researches that would prove that coffee is a healthy drink. Some people may say no, but it's healthy.
But I can probably dispute that.
All right, that's
because
fine.
Here in our climate here in the Philippines, we have two things which are good for hot drinks. We have coffee and we have cacao.
Right.
And we tend to neglect the cacao and we major on the coffee because the rest of the world's all talking about coffee. But actually cacao has a lot less other effects on the body. Like, for instance, coffee has a high level of caffeine in it, which is a stimulant. It makes your brain work faster. But for every stimulant, you've then got a dip as well. So then you have to keep on drinking coffee to keep yourself going, and so on. Cacao is not quite like that. Cacao is a much more balanced energy producer without big ups and downs.
Right. All right, that's cool. So for us coffee lovers, of course we moderate, because we know if we drink too much coffee, we get hyper. So cacao, and he also did mention prepare your own food instead of buying processed food. Why don't you prepare your own food so you know what's in it? And eat fruits in season. Today there's still a lot of Indian mangoes. Yeah, eat those. Papaya is always in season.
But you know, I don't know whether we're moving into the nutrition area yet. But I think that you see, at different times of year, different fruits come on, and this is in the plan of God. Like, for instance, if you're living in the Netherlands, you've got a cold winter, and so in the winter we eat a lot more vegetables, starchy foods, and so on, because we need more sustained carbohydrates in our diet. In the summer, we eat a lot more fruits and fresh fruits, which have a much higher water content, because in the summer we need more moisture in our body, we sweat more. Here in our climate here in Batangas, we have most of these things all year round. Like, for instance, papaya. Papaya, in this warm climate, we sweat a lot. And therefore we need a lot of moisture coming in.
That's right.
And so God has provided these fruits which have, and at different times of year, like for instance, in springtime, you get a lot of berries in a northern climate, like in the Netherlands. You get a lot of berries. You get strawberries, you get blueberries, you get blackberries and so on. And those things help to detoxify the body where you have been having to keep yourself warm, you're not able to sweat so much, and so on. In the springtime, you want to get all of that out of you, and then in the autumn, you want to fill up with vitamins and minerals again to last you through the winter. So there's a cycle. There's a cycle of what comes on at which time of year. As we follow that, then it has a good effect on our lives and our good health.
For us living in tropical countries like the Philippines, the fruits are abundant, you know, and really we just need to train ourselves to eat more fruits. Because number one, they're delicious. Number two, good source of water. So if you want to be hydrated, instead of drinking water or juice, you can eat fruits. Like my wife, Julia, she's a big fan of, we call it shigua in Chinese, watermelon. Why? Because it has a lot of water in it. It's tasty and sweet. So make sure that we are hydrated, make sure that we are exposed to fresh air. We're going to be taking a break in a few moments, and when we come back, we will focus on a little bit more technical, I would say, nature of health, which means we're going to talk about what goes on and what happens in our gut system, and how the gut system is quite important in maintaining health in its totality. Because again, when we say healthy, we're not just focusing about physical health. If you guys are having brain fog or forgetfulness or, you know, food problem, stay tuned for the next half of this, because we're going to be delving into it. Thank you for that first half. I think that's a pretty good exchange, and I want to thank you guys for staying. We are here at After Dusk with Ramil Cueto, and today I have a very special guest, my friend, mentor, and co-farmer, Robin Willison. And of course, I want to thank Balisong Channel for hosting us today, especially Kenji. It's been very helpful and creative in putting this together. And not to be forgotten are my sponsors, mainly City Mart, group of companies here in Batangas City, particularly Mark Go. Hi, Mark. I want to say hello to you and your family and your mom and dad and your siblings. I really appreciate that you're supporting shows like this, because we feel we need the right education, enough information that health is really important. You know, there's a saying, no wealth if there's no health. And I do want to mention also a friend from Kuya Rene from Redor Trading. Hello, Kuya Rene. And friends from Caboose and Philra, Raul, and Gilbert. And of course, you guys, I want to thank you. So stay tuned. We're going to be back very, very soon. See ya. Join me as we enter the world of positivity and dreams. My name is Ramil Cueto, and this is After Dusk. After Dusk really is a conversation. It's a meaningful encounter between me and you. I like to talk about dreams, how we build a dream, how we realize a dream, and everything that goes with it. That in life, you know, it's a meaningful journey. It's a roller coaster of things. But the most important thing is how you are in the process. Life principle is about doing what is right the best that you can, even if it's hard. This is After Dusk. Join me as we enter the world of positivity and dreams. My name is Ramil Cueto, and this is After Dusk.
After Dusk really is a conversation. It's a meaningful encounter between me and you. I like to talk about dreams, how we build a dream, how we realize a dream, and everything that goes with it. That in life, it's a meaningful journey. It's a roller coaster of things, but the most important thing is how you are in the process. Life principle is about doing what is right the best that you can, even if it's hard. This is After Dusk.
Welcome back to After Dusk. We're on the, I would say, second half. Yeah, second half of a very, very interesting discussion about what makes us healthy. And I'd like to spend the next few minutes into talking about diet before we go into discussing our gut system and what it is and why it's important. So what might constitute a rather healthy diet so that we can be energetic and up and about on a daily basis?
Okay, maybe I'm going to be a little bit controversial in the local climate here.
That's okay to be
Philippines.
controversial.
But I'm a Christian, and in the Bible it says that when God first created human beings, He gave them grains and seeds, fruits and nuts to eat. And then later, when they rebelled against God, God added vegetables to the diet. So it was grains, fruits, nuts and vegetables. And it wasn't until after the flood that meat was added, I believe, temporarily, not permanently. So to have a good diet, you need to major on grains and seeds, the fruit, which is the food which is all over the face of the earth. That means grains, seeds, beans, that kind of thing. And then the fruits and also the nuts. Now here in the Philippines, nuts are interesting because there are some things we don't regard as nuts. Like for instance, if you get a langka, okay?
Jackfruit, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're eating langka and then you break it apart, what do you do with the seeds? Normally people throw them away.
Yeah. Back in the day, my grandma would cook it and would eat it.
Those are the nuts from the langka.
Yes, yes.
You know, we think that nuts are only things like walnuts, cashew nuts, and almonds, and so on, and Brazil nuts. But actually, we have langka nuts also in our langka, and there are so many other things like that which are part of what is growing in our environment here, which fulfill that requirement. So the problem is that over the last century or so, people began to adopt what we call the Western diet. And the Western diet meant that every dish was based on meat of some kind, some dead animal. And so this has a lot of effects on the body. Like for instance, they did research years ago into whole national populations on how much protein is in the diet. And then they found, for instance, with a high protein diet, that children develop their permanent teeth earlier than those who are eating a less high protein diet. Also, girls start their menstruation
earlier
at 11 or 12, and then they had another national population where their menstruation was starting at 18 or 19 because they were eating a lot less meat, a lot less protein. So we tend to eat far too much protein, and particularly from animal sources, and of course from the animal source you've got the protein, but you also have the fat and you have the blood. And eating a lot of animal fat is one of the main conducive factors towards diabetes, which is rampant in this part of the world also.
Yeah. And also, there are a lot of studies pertaining to sources of protein. Like mushroom protein is much better than meat protein. in terms of its quality. It's just saying that non-animal sources of protein is healthier than the animal.
Well, also beans. A lot of people today, nutritionists, are promoting we should have beans with every meal. I think that's probably a lot of beans, but at least every day. There are so many beans, you know. Here, I'm a farmer, so we grow red beans, we grow black beans, we grow kival, we grow, I can't even remember the name of half of them. We have patani,
yes,
and chibachi. We have so many different kinds of beans. And we need to eat a lot more beans and cut down or cut out on all of that animal protein.
Right.
Because that is leading to so many physical diseases in the population today.
So it's never too late to reintroduce vegetables into our diet, especially for young children, because if we insisted on feeding them, you know, the traditional Filipino breakfast, lunch, or dinner, which is heavy on the meat and very less on vegetables, chances are the physical and mental development of our children will not be the best. So, moving on,
Let me just add to that one. There is a concerning level of malnutrition amongst children in the Philippines.
Of course.
And one reason is because of this, you know, the traditional Filipino meal tends to be a large amount of rice and a small amount of meat on top of it, and that's about it.
And hardly any
vegetables at all.
And fruits.
And not many fruits.
And most particularly, there will be no nuts, no dried fruits.
Yeah, all of that. So we've got to move away from that. And also, white rice has been broadcasted by the World Health Organization as being conducive towards getting diabetes. But if you eat the colored rices, the brown rice, the black rice, the red rice, then that has beneficial qualities rather than detrimental qualities within the rice itself. So eating the colored rice, and I've noticed that the red rice is getting cheaper and cheaper here in Batangas City today.
Yeah.
It's getting more affordable.
And more available. As a matter of fact, I have a friend from Iban. Hello, Luis, if you're listening, watching. Luis is one of the few farmers who produces red rice, brown rice, black rice.
Black rice.
So if you guys are interested to connect to Luis, leave me a message, and I'll be very happy to pass on to Luis your interest. We need to encourage our children, our family, to diversify our consumption of rice. Mix your white rice with red or brown or black.
And Luis's rice is also all organic.
All organic, very, very healthy indeed. Indeed. Anything you'd like to add on the diet before we move on to the next topic?
Well, as I say, we've got to eat a more diversified diet. When I became a vegetarian, when I heard all the reasons why we should be vegetarian, and there are many. It's not just health reasons, it's care for our environment and so on. When I became a vegetarian, then I began to eat a much wider variety of foods. Most of us are very limited in the variety of foods we eat. And here we tend to, have certain dishes that we major on, whether it's adobo or whatever it is.
Right.
And we need to eat a much wider variety. Yeah. And also, we need to go back. I was with a group of people recently developing or giving some counsel on developing a university degree course in public health. And I told them, I said, when you go to a supermarket to buy food, what do you see when you open the door? Packets. You see plastic. Everything is in packaging. Now, is that food that's all in those packages? Or because if you went into a place to buy food, say 100 years ago, well, you'd have all your cabbages and carrots and onions and potatoes. You'd have a whole wide range of fresh food.
Yes.
But today, when you go into a supermarket, it's all rows and rows, aisles and aisles of manufactured foods. We need to get back to the simple, natural foods that God has provided for us to be healthy in. There's another area which I used to give a lot of lectures in when I was in Britain, and that is the area of genetic modification.
Oh dear.
GM or GMO, genetically modified organisms. The vast majority of foods that we're eating, even particularly things like maize, like corn, it's all genetically modified, particularly the yellow corn. And what that means is that they've cut out certain genes and they've spliced in certain other genes. And in other words, the food is no longer the way God made it. It's not hybridization, which is where you get something with a good root and something with a good fruit,
Right.
the same plant. You cross-pollinate them and you get a plant which has good roots and good fruit. That's hybridization. Genetic modification is putting in, like for instance, in a northern climate, your tomatoes freeze. So therefore, to make them more freeze resistant, what they did was they got some genes out of some fish called an Arctic char living in the cold ice cap, and they put some of its genes into the tomato so that it wouldn't freeze so easily.
Yeah.
Well, it may not freeze so easily, but is it still a tomato? To me, my way of thinking, no, it's been altered and altered away from the way that God made it to be nutritious to us.
That's right. So what we can learn from that is the more we veer towards the unnatural, then we become more prone to diseases, and it alters our body. Our natural immune system is weakened. Our mental, physical development is altered as well. I'd like to take this segue into this next important topic because Kuya Robin mentioned that food intake diversity is actually important. To be able to eat different foods will provide more balanced nutrients to our body.
And that means not necessarily more different kinds of foods in one meal.
Yeah,
it means that between your meals you range around a whole lot of different kinds of foods. Don't get too many all in the same meal.
That's right, that's right. So if our target is 30 different kinds of vegetables, fruits and nuts in a day or so, you can have some in the morning,
divide it,
and then have some during lunch and afternoon. Let's try to skip the meriendas, because with starchy bread, which I'm really am guilty of because I'm a bread lover. But I'm changing and I'm moving towards a more healthy way of living. That's why I'm talking about this matter.
Well, it's like, for instance, even the grain. Here people are used to eating white rice at least 3 meals a day. We won't get into the meriendas.
And midnight snack.
Oh, yeah, okay, well, let's delete all of that. So let's just stick with 3 meals a day. So those 3 meals a day tend to be based on white rice. That's not a good nutritious foundation.
Not
for
diverse enough.
Like with us, we normally eat oats at breakfast time. We had rice at lunchtime, and in the evening we tend to have wheat. So that we have a variety over one day. And it's not the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, it gets kind of boring if we eat the same thing. The reason why this is important, this food diversity, is because our gastrointestinal system, or what we call the gut system, it requires a very balanced food intake. Otherwise, if the microbes, bacteria living in our gut system are now well fed in a balanced way, this will weaken our gut system. So let's talk about that for a minute.
Okay.
What is gut system, and why is it so important in achieving total health? Yeah.
Well, when people study the body with electron microscopes, what they found is that there's about between 3 and 5 trillion microbes living either on the surface or in the digestive system and so on of the body. There are more microbes living on us than there are body cells. And those microbes have a role. They are mediating between us and the environment, or us and what we eat and whatever. So they all have an important role. But unfortunately, there's some good ones and there's some not so good ones. So what we need to do is to promote the good ones and keep reduced the not so good ones. They have a role too. We don't want to kill them all off, but they have a role, but they mustn't start taking over. So basically what we call a gut microbiome means everything that lives between our mouths and our anus, the other end. And this is the largest microbiome system in the body. There are more microbiomes in that area than there are on the surface of the skin and so on. So when we eat our food, it starts to be digested by the saliva and so on in our mouths, and then it goes to our stomach with the hydrochloric acid and pepsin and so on. And then it goes into the small intestine and the large intestine. It's done there where the digestion occurs. Now, what happens is the microbes that are living in your system eat the food that you're eating.
Right.
And then they produce the chemicals that you need and put it into your blood.
That's true.
So in other words, your gut system has a lining. There's a lining of cells, and living on the surface of those cells are these microbial bodies. And these microbes are the ones that are eating the food and putting into your body what it needs. If you have a preponderance of the wrong type of microbes, like for instance, I've been in societies where there's a lot of, where people have eaten a lot of antibiotics, for instance. Antibiotics, as the word says, is antibiotic. Anti means against, and bios is life.
Right.
So these have a role, but it's a short-term role. If you take them for too long, then it kills off a lot of the good bacteria in your microbiome. The result, excuse me, the result of that is that various other things, like for instance, fungus, it tends to take over in our digestive system, and it disrupts the microbes that are living there and takes their place. Result of all of this is that the cells which line our digestive system tend to develop leaks between them. And what happens then is that the food you're eating goes straight into your blood without being taken by a microbe. And so you get in your blood things that should not be in the blood. That's what leads to the brain fog, a lot of mental difficulties, as well as physical
Memory
difficulties.
loss, yeah.
It's when you have what we call leaky gut syndrome. And leaky gut syndrome is when you have killed off some of the good bacteria and bad bacteria in your digestive system, and it's been replaced by bad things.
Called toxins. Let me interrupt you there, and I sort of want to paraphrase what Kuya Robin said, because it's rather complicated, but I like to put it in a very simple terminology and the way I understood it. Whatever food we eat, whatever drinks we take in, it goes to our digestive system or gastrointestinal system. Now, when whatever we take in or drink reaches, our intestines, they have to be digested efficiently, and by efficiently meaning the good nutrients. The nutrients will be extracted 100%, and these nutrients will go directly into our bloodstream. Now, if it's inefficient, as Kuya Robin mentioned, when our gut system has leaks, we have leaky gut, the unprocessed food and drinks could go directly to the bloodstream, and this is toxic. Mm-hmm. This is the beginning of toxicity in our body. And if not arrested, this toxin can produce a lot of problems. And Kuya Robin mentioned about number one, brain fogginess. We cannot make sense of things. Memory loss, we just forget things. Food intolerance, we couldn't take any food. We become so sensitive, And then because of this, definitely our emotions, our psychological health can get affected.
Well, we have so many thousands and thousands of different varieties of microbes in our system. And that's the reason why we need to eat a wide range of different foods.
Food diversity.
Because different microbes eat different things. And if we're on a very limited diet, then some of those microbes starve and may die off. They may completely leave our digestive system. And then we're not getting the work that they need to do in eating our food and putting it into the blood, the nutrients we need.
It's like saying they don't have the muscle. These microbes don't have the muscle to properly process the food into nutrients.
And they starve. They can literally die out. So this is a very important thing. And if you study nutrition, they talk a lot about fiber. Now, why do they keep talking about fiber? They say, well, it helps things to move through the digestive system quicker, right? But there's another more key role. Another more key role is that some of these microbes, the good ones that live within us, they eat that fiber, and that is their nutrient. So if you're not getting enough fiber, those microbes are not able to do their job, and although you may be eating a lot of food, you're still starving for some nutrients.
So let me emphasize again, food diversity, which means having lots of vegetables, nuts, fruits, having enough drink. Basically, we want alkaline water because our body, our stomach doesn't want to be acidic, because once it becomes acidic, it becomes more prone to diseases. So the diversity of the foods and drinks that we take is really crucial to keep those microbes strong and able to do their job.
But just to clarify a little bit there, the stomach is acidic. It's hydrochloric acid is the main thing there. But the body as a whole needs to, we need to supply it with slightly alkali, like water, for instance, because the diseases flourish in an acidic environment.
Yes.
And therefore, of course, the blood is regulated. So you have a certain pH, which is potential for hydrogen value in your blood. But if you're constantly eating alkali foods and drinking alkali water, not too alkali, but just reasonably alkali, then it promotes good health, and it also promotes resistance to disease. And that's another subject, immunity.
Immunity, which is a good segue, because one of the things that I think people should understand is that our immune system, natural immune system, is resident it resides within the gut system. And it's a significant, it's a very critical information, because according to researchers, and you can verify this via Google, 70% or so of our immune system resides within the gut system. I like to make that analogy by way of saying, if Batangas City is like the gut system. And like 70% of the military of the whole country resides here. And that 70% is the immune system. So imagine how powerful the city could be if you have 70% of your immune system or military system within one place.
So let's step back a little bit. What is the immune system?
What is the immune system? Very good, yes.
The immune system is your ability to remain healthy, basically.
Yes, or protect.
So our body has, when things come in from our environment or come through our skin that shouldn't be inside our body, or maybe it's even cancer cells, the immune system fights that and gets it out of the body. So the immunity we're talking about is having, like Ramil said, a fighting force that is dealing effectively with all the things that shouldn't be inside our body. It's chewing them up and eliminating them. So this is a key to good health. We've got to have good immunity. Like, for instance, we've had a lot of things about COVID lately. And there's been a question, do you need to be vaccinated, or will your immune system do the job for you? I won't go into detail with that. I don't want to end up with an argument. But
perhaps next
the immune system is the key to good health. We've got to have a system that is destroying the things we don't need inside our bodies, and that's effectively doing that job.
So there you go. The immune system, the gut system, they have a very, very strong relationship. So to keep our immune system very strong and fighting those unwanted diseases or sources of diseases in our body, we got to have a good health. And when I say good health, have a strong and healthy gut system. And of course, having the mental, psychological, and the spiritual health. It's about 8 o'clock. It's about a good hour. And before we conclude, I want to just say hello to Adi for sharing her thoughts. She said, let food be thy medicine. So food medicine. We are consciously, or we can consciously prepare food that can be also our medicine.
And it's a good point. We have to realize that the medicine God has given us is in the foods. It's not something man-made. It's something that God has made for us. And so therefore, what we choose to eat will affect our health, because it affects our immunity and the functioning of every aspect of our lives. So food as medicine, this is a phrase which is picked up from more than 2,000 years ago.
Right.
But basically, we've got to understand that if we eat right, we will have good physical health.
Yes.
I'm not going to get into the mental health areas which we talked about before.
We've done.
But we will have good physical health if we're eating good food, as organic as possible. And here, where we're living here in the Philippines, it's not that difficult to get good food. And I'm not talking about the manufactured variety. So that food, as we eat a lot of natural foods, different foods have different medicinal properties. We need to have a greater understanding of that in order to choose to have the right things to give us good health. So food is medicine, and it's important that we understand in what way that is true.
Awesome. So folks, please leave your questions or messages, ideas, contributions to be healthy. It's been a great hour, and I just want to briefly summarize what we've covered, although we're here, there, and everywhere. But number one, when we talk about being healthy, we want to talk about its totality, being comprehensive and being aware that it's not just a physical health, but it's the spiritual, mental, psychological are more important. We did discuss about the importance of understanding our human body, particularly the gut system, and its relationship with our immune system. And one of the things I want to forget, and I've been thinking about this one thing, and Kuya Robin has always mentioned this to me almost in most cases, is having enough time to rest. We're always going and going and going, but actually one of the things that can make us healthy is giving ourselves, our mind, our physical body, our heart, enough rest to recover from whatever it is.
And that includes daily rest,
Daily
weekly
rest,
rest, yearly rest, and so on. We all know that we need vacation from stress. But we need to have a balance, as I say, not only to sleep well day by day, but also to have days in which you're doing different things during the week. The Bible speaks about the seventh-day Sabbath as a day in which you contemplate the things of eternity rather than just this world. And then yearly vacations also. The Bible again has yearly feast days and so on. So rest has different aspects to it also.
Moderation, rest, food diversity in our diet, don't get into toxic relationship, toxic environment, anything toxic. These are practical things that actually can make us healthy, totally healthy. Yeah. So again, Kuya Robin, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, it's been a wonderful hour. We've been talking about this for a few months, and today we're happy that with the support of Balisong Channel, Kenchi, and your team, James, Glenn and Rose and Ella, and of course I don't want to forget our supporters tonight, City Mart, Retort Trading, Caboose, Philra, for making this possible. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon again.
Bye.
Join me as we enter the world of positivity and dreams. My name is Ramil Cueto, and this is After Dusk. After Dusk really is a conversation. It's a meaningful encounter between me and you. I like to talk about dreams, how we build a dream, how we realize a dream, and everything that goes with it. That in life, it's a meaningful journey. It's a roller coaster of things. But the most important thing is how you are in the process. Life principle is about doing what is right the best that you can, even if it's hard. This is After Dusk.